So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining. I'd like to take this time to let you know that today consultant Helen Weiner is going to walk us through a presentation of her webinar, Get a Grip on Your Data. This is a webinar for the life sciences industry. So she's going to walk us through a webinar and field any questions you have. Please feel free to use the GoToMeeting interface to ask questions at any time during the presentation. So with that, I will turn it over to Helen.
Hey everyone, as Billy mentioned, my name is Helen and I'm a consultant here at Pharmica Consulting. I have been in IT for about 20 years and 15 of those years have been in pharma IT. And Pharmica has been around for about 12 years. We're a consulting service that specializes in the pharmaceutical industry for the past 12 years, I said. And our focus is on operational excellence with pharma companies across R&D, commercial, corporate functions, IT, and so on. So today we're going to be talking about data visualization. And the information in this presentation today is going to apply to data visualization in drug development specifically, but it's really applicable anywhere in the business. So we're going to start off talking a little bit about the data mess. Where is it? What are some definitions and what are the challenges with lots of data? Then we'll talk a little bit about history. There have been lots of trends in the past 3 to 5 years that are actually pretty cool. And then we'll talk a little bit about where we're today and bringing ourselves up to the present and talk about maybe what's next. After that, I'm going to go into a little demo and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So I'm going to jump right in here. Google estimates that 90% of the data in the world has been created in the last couple of years. And this information is no different when it comes to clinical trials. The number of clinical trials continues to grow. You can see from this chart in 2007, there were about 36,000 clinical trials, whereas today in 2017, there are about 244,000 trials, which is over 6 times the amount of what there was just 10 years ago. It's a huge jump. Not only that, but not only are the number of trials growing, but the complexity is also increasing, which compounds the problem. So looking at this chart, we can see that the total number of endpoints has increased, as has the number of eligibility criteria, the number of procedures, as well as the number of procedures per visit. We're seeing that our treatment period is longer and that there are more procedures per patient, leading to more data overall, which means the workload is increasing. And these trends are just showing us that getting a grip on our data is just going to get harder. So not only that, but the CRO spend is growing at twice the rate as the money we invest in R&D. So we've got more complex trials, and the data is all over the place. It's outside of our firewalls, and it's at all of our partners. And this makes data visualization even more difficult. How do you know the status of the portfolio? How do you even know the right metrics when you can't really wrap your arms around the data? So we're going to look at this pretend company. It's called Acme Pharmaceuticals, and they're just a generic pharma company we made up. Well, Acme has a variety of applications in the e-clinical space, and they have 3 partners. They have Quintiles, Parexel, and PPD. Now, each company, each of those partners has their own set of software, and Acme has their own systems as well. So we've got many data points across many systems. And looking at this slide, it's no wonder we feel so out of control with our data. So many systems from so many sources. And not only that, but the drug development data is actually very rich and complex. Before we even can get to the pretty visuals, we are getting our data in multiple forms, numeric, data, text, graphs, so on. And the raw data doesn't tell the story, so we're going to have to do some data forecasting, do some calculations to truly understand where the trial is heading. For clinical trials, we really have to pull in the data and connect it with all the rest of the data, and then we're going to massage it a bit to make it meaningful. And then once that's done, then we're ready to tell the story with our visualizations. Now, let's take a look at the history here. If you go back 10 years, the well-known companies from them were acquired all around the same time. And once they were acquired, the question then became, now what? And the question was posed to the business community, and the more vocal users raised their voices, and they said that they wanted to be able to create reports without having to engage IT at every turn. Some of the main things that the end users said were they needed to be something a business person could come to and create their own reports ad hoc. They wanted more self-serve. They wanted to be able to easily embed in SharePoint or other websites. And they wanted to be in the cloud, wanted to be able to mash it up with a variety of things like social, search, and collaboration, rather than having a limited space where the data visualization resides. So with these new school tools, there was a big trend for newer companies. So where are some of these companies with respect to the Gartner BI quadrant reports? Well, for anyone who doesn't know, Gartner's an organization that does surveys on a variety of software products to help determine what the best product out there is. They put this quadrant report out where it shows the ability to execute along this y-axis here and the completeness of vision along the x-axis. And you want your software company to be in this upper right quadrant, the leaders quadrant. Now, looking at this, you can see in 2015, there were about 9 leaders in the 9 companies in the leaders quadrant. And by 2016, that shifted so that only 3 leaders remained in the leaders quadrant. Then from 2016 to 17, you'll see more changes in the leader quadrant. So the green dots are showing where they were in 2016, and you can see Click was slightly downgraded, but Tableau made a huge jump along that ability to execute access. Additionally, so did Microsoft with their product Power BI. And Power BI is one of those products that a lot of people don't even know about. It's actually made a tremendous amount of progress in the past 3 years, not only in their ability to execute, but also their vision of what BI should be. One of the great things about Power BI is that it actually embeds out of the box in SharePoint, as well as it integrates quickly with things like Excel, where people really like to play with their data. So if you haven't read the Gartner BI report, I would recommend looking it up, and I would also definitely check out Power BI. So in this next slide, I just wanted to show you something we've done with visualizations in pharmacovigilance area. These are reports that we did in Tableau, and you can see that they're embedded in a SharePoint site. And you can also see how a well-done visualization helps to give a complete view of what's going on. Ultimately, you need metrics to help you understand what's going on so you can effectively manage your trial or your patients by catching those outliers as soon as possible and identifying those risks as early as possible. Then you can proactively deal with them before they become a full-blown problem. So next, I'm going to do a demo of Power BI. And I just want to mention, Pharmica is not actually married to Power BI, but I wanted to highlight one of the leaders that people don't really know a lot about. So I'm going to real quick just switch out of this and go over to this graph here. Yeah, let me just clear out these filters real quick. Oops. So I wanted to start you from a fresh report here. So now you can see across the top we have these 9 cards. These 9 boxes, they're actually called cards in Power BI. And these are just highlighting some at-a-glance information that people really like to see. And then along the right we have these filters. And I'm going to go ahead and refilter this here because I want to show you just one study. And now we can see, why am I not showing one study here? Hang on one sec. That's because I don't have a single option selected. Okay, let's try that again. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight this one study, and you can see that this graph will now show us all this different information on one graph. We've got new patients per month, we can see our actual and planned patients enrollment, and so forth. Now, let's say I want to see a little bit more about this new patients per month. I can hover my mouse over it, and as I drag my mouse across, you can see that the information updates to show the data points at the point on the graph. And I can also zoom in on it a little bit by just selecting the new patients per month. Now you can see our legend over there has cleared out, and we're only showing new patients per month, and we can see our data a little bit more closely. Same thing here for our patients enrolling and our patients screening and so forth. So you can see this report is really robust and useful. So now let's just get back to our demo here, and I'm going to go on to this slide. So we talked a little bit about disparate data that's all over the place. Now in this slide, we can see the site milestones over here for one study, for one site within a study. And this is found in a CTMS system, several clicks in. And it's a single list for that site only. So if I wanted to see this for all the sites in a study, I'd have to navigate to every site to see them. Now, once this data is entered in here for our sites, it gets put into a table like here on the right. And that table is not really very useful in helping us understand what's going on. However, we have a nice visualization like this, and now you can see at a glance who's where they're, has all those milestones met and who's a little bit behind. And I don't have to think real hard about what I have to follow up on. I got to follow up on site 207 here. Now, one of the things we see when it comes to report development is that people aren't always developing reports in a way that we can proactively manage it before it becomes a big problem. So there's really a need to construct meaningful reports that have actionable data. I chose this report because I wanted to show you some actionable data here. So let's start with this one up across the top, the green. We can see that the green is all where it should be, so quick glance, we know we don't really have to worry about it. If I have 10 studies and 9 of them are green, I don't have to spend any time on it, very quick. Then I can move to the red. Now looking at this study number 4, ST4 over here, you can see that they've already hit the red and they're in the yellow for their next milestone. So there seems to be a pattern emerging here. They missed the last milestone and they're already in danger with this upcoming milestone. If we take a guess at what will likely happen with the next one, it's probably going to be late. So now I know I want to intervene and find out if we can get back on track or if we need to seek approval to rebaseline. So we can use trending to help us take action. If there's one that's consistently red, I want to look at that, intervene, see if there's anything we can do. Otherwise, we are going to need to go to management, rebaseline, and request some additional funding. Now let's look at some of the yellows. Now, back to this ST4, you can see that this is yellow, but that there's no date here. So what this means is we're within the threshold that we're flagging this as a potential to miss a milestone. You haven't missed it yet, but it absolutely needs action right now. So a report like this really allows you to manage by exception. You just come in, you look for the yellow and the red, and you know exactly where to focus your energy. Now, talking about meaningful data again, if I told you that we have 94 patients, as in ST4 here, out of 180 planned for your study, what does that tell you? 94 by itself doesn't mean anything. If it's the first month of the trial, that's actually a great number. But if it's 10 days before the planned LPI, then it's really not so good. So with this study, we can also see that 15 out of the 23 sites are currently active. So something like this report really gives us the bigger picture. We can look at the average patients per site per month, and we can look at these enrollment columns, enrollment percent complete and the period percent complete. And what's really useful to know is that 50% of your patients are enrolled and you only have 18% of your enrollment period left. So now that gives us something we can take action on. What we really need though from here is to next see the number of patients per month needed to achieve our milestone. So if we look at this chart, we have that information here. If we look at this, it's going to help us determine how likely it is that we're going to make 100% enrollment by the completion of the enrollment period. We can see that the average patients per month on site 200 here is 1 patient per month, and that we're 82% through our enrollment period, which ends on September 29th. We can also see that to meet our goal, we need to enroll 3 patients per month. So I can go over here, I can see who the principal investigator is, and now I can call her and see what's going on, and hopefully we can kick things up a notch and make sure that we meet our goal. Now, we've shown what we can do. How to design reports with actionable data. This next one I wanted to show you goes back to the notion of those multiple data sources. We talked about multiple data sources in the current outsourcing model, where most sponsors actually have their data residing in multiple systems. The cost to integrate data systems, which are constantly changed out, is really expensive, and it's tedious to maintain. So the great thing about the new generation of reporting tools is we're finding less need to integrate data from multiple systems into a proper data warehouse. Rather, Power BI is its own cloud-based tool with its own data warehouse. So we can map into disparate systems, and we can aggregate the data together directly in the tool, which eliminates that need for those expensive data warehouses. So, for example, this report shows the data from an Excel sheet. It's a budget data exported from a financial system. That's our spent per invoice information. And it also shows stuff that we're tracking in a SharePoint list, the form's missing information. And then the rest of this stuff is coming from our CTMS system, the general project information and our enrollment stuff. So yeah, that is my overview of Power BI. Does anyone have any questions?
Great. Thanks, Helen. Are you able to hear me?
I am.
Perfect. So we had a few questions come in, and we'll get started.
Okay.
Once again, everyone, you can use the GoToMeeting interface to ask any questions, and I'll relay them to Helen. So the first question we have here is, can Power BI link with all the major database products like Oracle, SQL, etc.?
Yeah, actually Power BI has the ability to link in with all of them, with Access, with Oracle, SQL, CRM. Yeah, they have a big, long, comprehensive list. So yeah.
All right, next up is how easy is it to create a new graph or report?
You know, creating the new graphs or reports, that's one of the things I love about Power BI. It's super easy. You really, once you have that data massage, like we talked about in the earlier slides, and you have all your measures ready, you literally drag them onto the screen, and Power BI will decide what it thinks is the best visualization to display that information. So if I drag it on, it might say I want this to be a bar chart. Once it's dragged on and I'm like, yeah, no, I don't really want a bar chart. All I got to do is look at their list of all the visualizations, and I can just pick a different visualization. It'll automatically update the bar chart to, let's say I pick a pie chart. So yeah, actually Power BI is very versatile in allowing you to do it very easily and on the fly.
All right, great. Next question we have is, can the raw data be exported to Excel to create ad hoc pivot tables?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things we can do with pivot tables. We can actually pivot the data right inside of Power BI. There's actually a pivot data function in there. Or we can take the data and we can actually export it to Excel and then manipulate it and pivot it to our heart's content there.
All right, great. And then it looks like this is the last question we received, so we'll wrap up after this unless we get any more. Can we pivot the data directly in Power BI?
Yeah, that's what I was just kind of saying. There is a function within the data query module that you can go ahead and pivot it right on the fly.
Okay, great. Well, that seems to be all of the questions we've received. I'd like to thank everyone for joining. We're going to be posting this webinar on the Pharmica website, and I will send out an email notifying everyone when it's up. So if you enjoyed the content and know anyone else in your workplace or social network that might benefit from seeing it, please share it. If anyone's interested in learning more about Pharmica and the work we do with data management or data visualizations or any of our other areas, please reach out to myself or Helen. And don't forget to check back for future webinars that we're holding. So again, thank you all for joining us and have a great rest of your day.